Hey guys, Karai Toho here, and I'm gonna do a video on my Monarch deck profile. Now, this is my real life deck. I use this for locals. I also use this for any tournaments I go to, and so far it's worked pretty well for me. It's a good budget deck. It was really cheap. I just had to buy the 3 structure decks. I didn't buy the Vanities or Majesty's Fiends, but it's alright because so far this deck has worked pretty good for what it does without them. So here we go, and let's start off with the monsters. Okay, so we play 1 Mithra. This card, very good in this Monarch deck build. It lets me tribute summon twice. It lets me basically do everything I need to do in my Monarch deck build. And this is what it looks like. It's, yeah, Mithra, the Thunder Vessel. And it's been pretty good for what it's done. So, let's just put that over there. 3 Edioses. This card is really good for what it does. It's pretty much the main engine in the Monarch, like, Vessel build. Basically, it's basically the tributes, or the things you need to tribute for your Monarchs. And yes, this is basically the main engine. You kind of need 3 of these in order to make the deck good. And then, let's see. 3 Edias. This card is basically the main part of the engine. Even more main than that card right there. Because when you summon him, you can summon basically any of these. And basically, yes, that's what it's meant to do, and it just special summons them from the deck. So, in defense position, of course, and it just lets you get off all the effects. Pretty good. Wasn't even that expensive to get this card. It just came in the structure deck. 1 each comes in the structure deck, by the way, guys. If you ever want to buy the structure deck, they come. 1 of each one comes in the structure deck. And I think, yeah, 1 of these comes in the structure deck as well. So let's move on to the Monarchs. 2 Caiuses. Why am I playing Caius? Because this card is really well with Escalation and Stormforth. This basically, the reason why I'm not running any more of the level 8 ones, because I felt like I need to run more level 6s, because there was, I don't know, it just felt really, like, not worth it, really, to just have level 8s in the deck, because it wasn't letting me get out my stuff, and it was really making me have a cloggy hand, and there was just no way for me to summon my Monarchs sometimes. So I put in the 2 Caiuses, and they really helped me get off a back row. They just banish any card, basically, on the field, so I can just banish almost any card, and if it's a dark monster, I inflict 1,000 to my opponent, which you can also banish himself for that. So if your opponent has like 800 or 1,000 or less life points, you can banish himself to win the game. Now let's move on to the Mega Monarchs and also the Nethers. But I have him. This is the Stelos, the Mega Monarch. He is very well in this deck. I make it so that basically I look at your hand and discard any card, and if it's a monster, you take damage times 200 of the monster's level that was discarded by this card. If this card tributed a fire monster for its tribute summon, it also inflicts 1,000 as well. So this card is also really good if your opponent's life points are 1,000 or less, or even 12 or less. This card's really good for finishing off your opponent, and it's also really good for a first turn summon, because you can just discard any of their cards. Now, all-time favorite, Erebus. I love Erebus. He is basically like the best Monarch I have ever seen. If you get this on your first turn, it's just, oh, your opponent can only like have 5 cards in their hand next turn, and it's just so well done. And if you're going second, that's even fine, because you can still get stuff rid of from their graveyard or field or hand. So this card is very well, and I'm running 3 of him, of course, and he's just worked really well. Here's the thing that mostly helped me throughout, like the last locals I went to. This is Aether. Aether is really good on your opponent's turn because you don't need escalation in order to summon him on your opponent's turn. So he's kind of like the escalation without escalation. And this is what really made me win the locals. I didn't get first place, but this is what made me go to the top 4. So he just kind of let me do that. So let's go and move on to the spells. One Foolish Burial. I'm running this because if Erebus is in the graveyard, he has a graveyard effect to send any Monarch spell and trap card from my hand to the graveyard to add any Monarch card, Monarch monster in my graveyard to my hand. I'm also running this because of Edea, and Edea just lets me get a banished Monarch spell and trap card from the banish zone back to my hand whenever it's sent to the graveyard. So if you can't send Edea, this is the Foolish Burial, and also if you can't send Edios, Foolish Burial. So that's kind of that part of the deck. One Rhoda for Edea. That's all it's really meant for. Trade-in, very good with Erebus. Just discard it, draw 2 cards, and then if you get a Monarch spell and trap, or if you already have one, you can just discard it, add Erebus back. 1 for Edea. March of the Monarchs. Only need to run one of these because really, in my perspective, you only need to run one of these because yes, it's a very good card, but the thing is that if you get 2 of these in your hand, what's even the point? You just kind of got a dead draw. So and you always recycle with this deck so much that you should only be running one of these. I've seen Monarch players run 3 of these, and I really don't know why. Maybe 2, but 3 is just, that's not even good. It's just kind of gets you really bad draws because if you get 2 of these in your first turn hand, it's like, why? There's no point. Return of the Monarchs, you only need to run one of these. It just lets you add any Monarch monster when you tribute summon a Monarch, basically. Strike, I'm only running one of these. You only need to run one of these. If you're running more than 2, it's just kind of really bad, and if you're running more than 1, it's still kind of bad. So this basically negates any face-up card on the field by tributing one of your Monarch tribute summoned monsters. Also, if this card's in your graveyard, you can banish it to declare any level, well, no, not level, sorry, attribute. Sorry about that. You can declare any attribute and all monsters on the field become that attribute. Very good for Thestelos because he needs a fire to do his extra damage. That's what this is for. Also very good for Caius because since every monster on the field is a dark monster, you can still banish one of their monsters. But it's not going to do damage if it's not a dark monster, but still, very good card. 3 Pantheism. These are definitely really good. You need these in the deck, in the Monarch deck, in order to make it great, and you need to have 3. If you're not running 3, it's really slow and it's just not that great. Having 3 of these is very important. This card just basically, it's like a pot of greed. You just send one of your Monarch spells and traps from your hand to the graveyard, draw 2 cards, and if it's in your graveyard, you can banish it, reveal 3 Monarch spells and traps from your deck. Your opponent picks one of them and you add it to your hand and the rest get shuffled back into the deck. So, very good card. 3 Stormforth. It's what you kind of need for this deck. Very good with Aether because you can actually chain this to Aether's effect, banish this from your graveyard. Well, if you're chaining, you can't banish it from your graveyard, but you can use this, then banish it for Aether, and then tribute one of their monsters, tribute one of yours, and you just summon out an Aether. This card's just really good, in my opinion. Also good with Caius. 3 Tensensities. This is basically really good with Pantheism. If you don't have this in your hand or graveyard, and there's still all 3 in your deck, you can just banish the Pantheism and just say, I reveal these 3, pick one of them, and it doesn't even matter because you're still getting one of them to your hand. And this card's just kind of like an extra search for everything. So 2 domains. I used to run 1 because I didn't see the point of running more than 1 because you're always recycling with this deck. So why should you run more than 1? That's what I used to say. But now I'm running 2 because I find it more appealing, and I just find it more better, I guess, because with pendulum decks and anything that special summons from the extra, it just cancels that whole entire problem out there. Okay, moving on to the trap cards. Let's start off with the shiny Solemn Warning. So, with this trap, you guys should already know what Solemn Warning does, but basically, this trap is just really good. So, oh, and I don't have Strike, so this is kind of like the card for Strike, but I like this card more than Strike anyways, so that's why I have that. Escalation, and we need to run one of these. It just lets you tribute summon on your opponent's turn. This is Erupt. Erupt is really good. Negates basically all your opponent's monsters effects except for tribute summon monsters. So yes, really good. Oh, and it still works for you. So if this is face up, Edia and all their effects will be negated, but still. This, for a first turn, will... oh, it's just perfect. And 3 primes. This is the final part of the deck. This is your recycling thing. I used to send all 3 of these from my deck to the graveyard with Erebus and Aether all the time. But now I realize that keeping 1 in the deck to get to your hand is very important for this deck build. And that's why I need this to be in my deck or hand in order for I can recycle, and this is kind of the recycling part of the deck. Also, you can banish this, banish any Monarch spawn trap card from your graveyard and just bring it back as a monster. It's not a trap anymore. So when your opponent tries to say like trap stun or stuff like that after you summon this, not going to do anything. In fact, I had one person try to Mystical Space Typhoon this while I was on the field, and they were like, Mystical Space Typhoon? I'm like, it's not a trap. It actually says on the card that it's not a trap anymore. It's a monster. So, hope you guys enjoyed. This is my Monarch deck build. It's pretty swell. I did pretty good at locals with this deck. So, just send your comments in the description below and see what were your opinions on this deck. Is there anything I should change or anything I should make better in your opinion? That's it for now. I'll see you guys later. Kurai Eto out.